Something about a buzzswool killing a Meowth is just... seems unfair for some reason. Hey there, it's me again for the first time in a long time, and I know what you're thinking. Hey, you barely make videos, and they've all been different. You did science, you did card games, you did stories, and I have another Lovecraft video coming up eventually, once Pokemon relinquishes its grip on me. But what I'm here for is I'm making a video game review. My first ever, and yeah, I know that's another thing to just throw on the pile. I'm seeing what sticks. This is a very different format from what I usually do, I know, but I wanted to get this out quick. As of this recording, the games have been out for exactly 2 weeks in North America, and I just had to do this as quick as I can, and when I make the little slides with the little guy who talks all the time, that takes forever. So, unless you've been living out in the Oort cloud or something, and only now are receiving transmissions that were fired off from Earth in January, or February, it was February, wasn't it? Pokemon Sun and Moon are here, it's huge, and I was wrong about something. I assumed that because everyone hates everything these days, that they were going to hate Pokemon too. Every big media release comes with nothing but negativity from people who just want to be negative. But this one's been getting all the hype. I think it's been well worth it. So yeah, if you wanted the short version of the review, there it is. It's good. Go play it. Why aren't you playing it? Unless you are. I can't see you. I'm off topic again. I'm off script again. Where's that script? Now, everyone in their Decidueye has made a video about this game, so I figured I'll throw my 2 cents in. See if my opinion's worth anything. Not that Canadians use single cents anymore. Do I even still have my pennies? By the way, I'm gonna spoil a bit of the game. Not a huge amount, but if you're really finicky about that stuff, I mean, it's a Pokemon game. It might be a little better written than most of them, but it's still just a Pokemon game. But if that really bothers you, put me in your watch later, come back, see what I think, see what you think, see if our thoughts line up, see if we get a little bit of mojo going. I shouldn't be put in front of cameras. I'll begin with the presentation, and what's there to say that hasn't been said already? It's great. It looks awesome. A lot of the models are still the same ones used from X and Y. Maybe I feel like they have a little more life to them than the ones in X and Y did, a little bit more animation, or maybe I'm just crazy and I'm just used to them now. Who knows? I don't know. I should know. I'm making a whole video about it. Particular props to the trainer models. Nothing against the anime-drawn trainers of the last game, but I kind of prefer the models that come in and do the pose, all that stuff. It just feels like, I know it's more expensive, it takes more work, but it was definitely worth it. It shows that they put their care into each trainer class. It means there's not that many trainer classes, because it's harder to make a model than it is to draw something, but still. When you see the lasses holding tennis rackets and the beauties holding golf clubs, you know what I mean. The character who actually feels most bland and kind of sticking out is yourself. I'm talking to you, Greg. I'm not actually talking to Greg. Greg's okay. With all the facial expressions that certain characters get, you standing there the entire time, like, stands out a little bit. Outside that, though, things look great. The Pokemon have great expressions, especially compared to the last one. Play with your starters in Pokemon Refresh, you'll see what I mean. Expressive is definitely the word I'd use to describe this generation as a whole, actually. The new designs, the new characters, all of that. Even when it's a bit out of place. Nihilego looked back at you with fierce and determined eyes. What eyes? Oh, those ones. Okay, never mind then. Carry on. Speaking of designs, I am loving the new ones. I mean, there's usually no Pokemon designs I dislike. I like them either... I just like how they look, or I like the concept even if I don't like the execution, or I like the Pokemon mechanically even if the design is kind of blah. So I'm not exactly a fair and impartial judge on that. My opinion of Pokemon is a little too positive that way. I will admit that. However, this generation I feel is a step above, even for my own relatively generous standards. Already, some of these designs are among my favorites out of all 800. Not that I make lists of that or anything, because that would be way too exclusive. That'd be a really big job. I'd have to separate it by type or generation or something. I like so many of them that if I put up my favorites, it'd probably blot me right out. Though honestly, people might prefer that. The Z move mechanic is an awesome addition to the game. And yes, I'm saying Z move for many reasons. First, I am Canadian. Second, that's how the original Japanese pronounce it, because they learned how to speak English from Europeans. Third, I like to bug Americans. Anyway, I love Mega Evolution. Super forms in video games and anime are my cup of tea. The whole aesthetic of that idea is great. I'm never gonna not love Mega Evolution. That being said, Z moves are a lot more inclusionary. Every Pokemon can use them. Even Pokemon that can barely attack, like Shuckle and Pyukumuku, because the status moves get Z equivalents too. If you use Z Splash, your attack goes up 3 stages. I'm not kidding. It's... why? Are we gonna start seeing Splash on Gyarados now? Also, as each Captain and Kahuna gives you a Z Crystal of their respective type, well, that's only 7 Captains and 4 Kahunas. That's... proving I'm bad. 11! That was a miserable amount of time to calculate 7 plus 4. 11 that you're gonna get right through the story, plus a few. Most of them. There's not many to look around and find, okay? So exploration, for the most part, isn't a huge thing in this game, unfortunately. But it's nice to do anyway, and there's a few of the gems, like the Psychic and Flying Z moves, that are just completely out of your way, and you'll need to start looking for them. And it's fun. I enjoy doing that. By the way, the Psychic one is in Haina Desert. A lot of people are missing that area. Once you beat Acerola's trial, you can take a step back, actually, instead of going back to the Ether House, and go into the desert, try to finagle your way through that, and get the Psychic Gem. And if you want to go all the way to the end, do so, because then you get a flying spot right to Tapu Bulu after you beat the League. Pro tip. I won't go on and on about the new moves and abilities, which are awesome, by the way. They do deviate more from the norm than people are used to, but they give the Pokemon that have them a very signature feeling. Like Pyukumuku with Innards Out, or Bruxish with Dazzling, though that ability already has a clone in Queenly Majesty. Or things like Incineroar with Throat Chop, which silences vocal moves for 2 turns. Instead, I'll move on to something that a lot of people were, including me, were worried about for this game, the story and characters. Now, it's nothing groundbreaking, but they definitely put in their work to... when the story gets to really repetitive beats that we're used to in all these Pokemon games, they deviate, which is nice. Only a little. But it's something. And it's better than X and Y. I like X and Y. But come on, the story and characters were pathetic. The villains are less of a coherent group in this game, and more of a ragtag group of individuals. Everyone in Team Skull has their own reason to be there, even if you only learn about a few of them, just talking to the grunts, especially when you get to their base of operations. It takes a little while to get to that, though, so Team Skull may just seem like they're rapping at bus stops, just for the fun of it, which admittedly, it's pretty fun. But there is a fair bit of diversity within the group, in their personalities and their interaction with their leadership, which admittedly kind of abandons them. You don't actually beat Team Skull, it just sort of falls apart when you create a power vacuum in it. And it's still a thing, it's just not much of a thing once you're finished with it. The Ether Foundation kind of works the same way. Now, everyone pointed at the Ether and they're like, oh, those are the real bad guys. People who are trying to act nice, screw them, right? Okay, you might have jumped on that one a little too hard there, Internet. Just letting you know. Because they're not actually the bad guys. One of their members is. And I'm not going to say who, though you can probably guess. But they do have a few bad apples in them. But they're not like this massive evil team, and they're not just using Team Skull to distract. They actually hire Team Skull, well, the bad person there hires Team Skull as like bodyguards. The two groups actually have very little to do with each other in general. Team Skull is just a natural thing that formed out of the traditions of the island, while Ether is actually trying to do some good. With the exception of the aforementioned jerkass. Basically, the end thing to take away from this is that the organizations mean relatively little, and the story is driven by characters instead. As slowly as it feels like it's driven sometimes, characters like Hao and Kukui and Gladian and Lily and the people in Ether, Lusamine Wick and Faba, and even Guzma and Plumeria, like, these characters all have their moment. Some of them, like Guzma and Plumeria, could have probably used a little bit more, but the story is trying to be character-driven. Hell, even Nebby feels like a character. You know, the Cosmog that Lily has. And even getting to the Legendary felt like, well, it was more personal. Because instead of just stopping a Legendary that the villains were trying to awaken for some nefarious deeds, the villains had no interest in Solgaleo or Lunala. You and Lily go after Solgaleo and Lunala to help you go finish off the villains. So it's more of your quest to get that, which is refreshing, to say the least. It kind of reminds me of Zekrom and Reshiram in Black and White. That was a loud noise. That probably came up on the... kids. Can I even see them out there?
My baloney has a first name, it's shut up you damn kids. My baloney has a second name, it's don't make me come out there.
Okay, so apparently a bunch of kids just got home from school and they decided to scream and swear outside my window because that's what kids like to do? I don't understand children these days. And I've lost my place. So I'm just gonna... A siren! Yay! That completely derailed me. Anyway, the characters are really fun. Hao and Lily are really the stars of the show. With the exception of one character, Kukui. Kukui is the best guy in the whole friggin' game. He is just fun to listen to. He's really charming. He's my favorite professor, and I'm a Gen 1 Professor Oak fanboy. I have cosplayed him numerous times, and I consider him the best professor until maybe now. He's very involved in your whole trip, and I can say that about most of the characters. Lily and Gladian and Hao pop in all the time, and seem to grow as friends and rivals, obviously. They stick with you, they travel parallel to you, and sometimes even try to travel with you. Meaning that in a large area, you'll see them catch up to you, like, 3 times. I'm talking about Lily. She does that a lot. When you're done interacting with them at the end of the game, none of them are the same character they were at the start. Well, except Kukui. But that's okay. Don't ever change, Kukui-senpai. The pacing of the game is pretty good too, much better than that of this video. Or of X and Y. Remember that part in X and Y where you beat the gym leader of the first town, then you continue a bit, you get to Lumios and a bunch of stuff happens, you feel involved, and then you go to get your second gym badge, and it takes forever. And then when you beat that, you go to get your third gym badge, and it takes forever. And then you take like 5 steps and you're in the next town for the 4th gym badge, and you get 3 gym badges within an hour of each other? This game doesn't do that. The trials and the set pieces are well set out, and you never feel like it's been too long since your last one until you get to the point where you beat the ghost-type trial, and then the plot kicks in and sort of takes the whole trial thing and sort of pushes it aside. They're still relatively predictable, but the trials are at least interesting, if lacking in challenge. Overall, I didn't have a hard time with any of the trials at all. Like, for the most part, they just kind of ended up being a little dull. Probably my favorite of the bunch was Mallow's, because you could actually go around and learn about what you're supposed to gather for her soup, and it's like, okay, so pick up the short grass here, search under this kind of tree here. There was a bit of involvement, but for the most part, not much else to say. Sophocles' sound quiz was kind of cool too, actually. A neat idea, I liked it. As for the totem Pokemon, well, they were actually pretty good. A few of them gave me a hard time. Except Lurantis. Pyukumuku countered its friggin' Solar Blade. First turn, wiped it out, didn't stand a chance. Pyukumuku, best Pokemon. Like I said before, they kind of fall out of the main plot pretty... well, no, not quickly, not really even suddenly. It's an okay transition, but they do fall out. But at least you don't have that old thing like in 4th Gen, where you save the world and do all the stuff with the Legendary, and then there's another gym to fight that's just, why are you even here? Thankfully, that former pacing issue of Pokemon's is pretty well dealt with, but there's a couple other little issues I might talk about now. Why am I doing this? It takes way too long to evolve Charjabug. I'll say that right out. Charjabug can fight. Yeah, no problem. But you want a Vikavolt. And when you do get a Vikavolt, it'll learn Thunderbolt as soon as it evolves. That's great. You've missed out on every other special move that it learns in its level up because it starts learning good special moves around 30, and you won't have one until the 40s at least. Crabrawler, same problem. It's not until you're almost the Elite Four that you can evolve Crabrawler into Bumble's Bounce. And Bumbles are awesome, but it takes way too long, and you're gonna miss out on some really good moves, like Ice Hammer. It's Hammer Arm, but for Ice types, and on a Bumble with Iron Fist, that's radical. And a few too many Pokemon miss out on moves that are set before they evolve, like Gulsilopod and Razor Shell. It could really use Razor Shell earlier, but unfortunately, it learns that at level 28, but it doesn't evolve until 30. And Wimpod doesn't learn any moves because it's a piece of crap. The move tutor isn't until the Pokemon Center before the League, which is a little too late, honestly, because some Pokemon need moves that they'd get before they evolved, and so certain Pokemon aren't worth training through the main game. Even ones I was really excited for. So, it's not perfect. I have my gripes. Here and there. I'll go through them now. Steps backwards, we might say. The lack of triple and rotation battles is not a game breaker for me, but unless they're in some mode I haven't found yet or I have to unlock them, they took them out of the game, probably because the engine can't handle them. The engine is really good in this game. Like, things look great, they happen fast, it freezes sometimes. Not like actual freeze, but you'll pick your move and then nothing will happen for a full second, which, given how smooth the game usually runs, feels very jarring. And then stuff will start happening again. It's not a game breaker. I've never had it freeze or crash or anything like that, but it does throw me off at least once a day. Slow down, too. In double battles, particularly, Pokemon, 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 Trainer, Trainer, because the trainers are in battle now. That's pretty cool. And then one of them decides to use a move that has a lot of flashy effects. Whew. Chugs. The SOS battle mechanic is a double-edged sword, for certain. I think it does more good than harm, but I can see how people will be a little annoyed at it. On one hand, it's a great way to farm good IV Pokemon, Shinies, and raise your EVs. I'm in the middle of that right now. The stylus just flew out. Since EVs double each time you continue a chain, you can, with all the Pokerus and power items and Macho Braces and all that stuff that I'm touching my face for no reason, you can max out a Pokemon's EV with 7 defeats. It's ridiculous. But when you're just trying to get from point A to point B, or just catch one Pokemon for the Pokedex, if it keeps calling things in, it gets annoying. Bring something that can paralyze or put something to sleep. Honestly, that's just sort of a lesson for all life. Bring Thunder Wave. Always have a Pokemon with Thunder Wave if you can. Just in general. Go play Red version and teach something Thunder Wave. It'll serve you well. I totally forgot to address the Mudsdale in the room. Riding Pokemon. HMs are gone, bros! Put simply, it's one of the best new mechanics to really speed up the game. It wasn't used all the time, but it was used frequently enough to really feel like an integral part of it. And being able to freely pick a team without any HM slaves to worry about felt great. I forgot to train a water type on my way through Sun version. Well, I had Pyukumuku, but it can't learn water moves. So really, I was waterless through that whole thing. I would have needed a surfer had this been any other game, but this time, I was completely free to rotate through my team of 15. And finally, my favorite part of it. No more cut. Oh, I'm sorry. I might be crying a little. I'm just so happy. Yeah. I think the riding Pokemon thing, and just getting rid of HMs in general, was a huge boon, and one that Game Freak takes to heart. Don't let this be a one-off idea. We need this to stay. I think the Pokemon League was also really good. It was a little weird that it was there in the first place, but I could dig it, especially becoming the first champion of a region, and then every time you beat the Elite Four again in rebattles, and you get to the top, you don't have to refight the champion again. Since you have to fight a challenger to your throne. And that's awesome. I've been asking for something like that for a long time, and it seems they finally delivered. There's 7 or 8 trainers who can come up and attack you after you've beaten the Elite Four again, and they rotate out, so you can't prepare for one of them. You just have to be ready. And hope it isn't Kukui. A level cap of about 65 for opposing trainers isn't bad. I'm okay with that. A little higher might have been nice overall, but, you know, what can you do? Getting to level 100 for the hyper training stuff is going to be a bit of a pain in the butt, but, you know, it's a first shot on a generation. I'm sure there'll be higher level stuff in either Stars version, if that's going to be a thing, or Sun 2 and Moon 2 if they decide to do that again. This generation's already similar enough to 5th gen, why not? Rebattleable trainers would be nice too, but really all we get is level 50 wild Pokemon in the league to retrain off, so, you know, that's a bit of a pain in the butt. Not exactly a fan of that. But I guess having 500 Halls of Fame will be, you know, the price to pay for success. It's Crystal version all over again. Come to think of it though, I never figured out how to check my Hall of Fame. It must be somewhere, but if you click on the PC box, like, you just go right into the box system, which is great. Nice, smooth, love it. But Pokedex evaluation was moved into the Pokedex itself, so I don't know where the Hall of Fame checker is in this one. Oh well, doesn't matter. Now we get to talk about the post-game. So if you're just at the League, I didn't spoil the League, really. Like, big surprise. There's a Pokemon League. But if you want to run, now's probably the time. There's a few neat things to do. There's the rest of Pony Island to explore, and some strong trainers and some neat places. not a whole lot, but it leads you to the battle tree, this game's version of the battle tower or battle maison. And if you like the battle maison, you're gonna love this, because these people are cheaty. Don't go in unprepared. Correct your EVs. You get to go to Guzma's house and settle his hash finally, because you don't actually settle him in the main game, if you remember. If you played it. You should play it. I loved going after the Tapu, those totem-ish Polynesian legendaries. They are some of the coolest legendary designs I've seen out of this series so far, and they were all a blast to go catch. Except Finny. She was... Oh! She became my most used, though, when I started going after my favorite part, the Ultra Beasts. If anyone actually watches the things I put up on this channel, they'll know that I love my cosmic horrors from beyond. They barely feature in the story at all, but they were very, like, an interesting concept to push the story forward a bit. And then the post-game, you get to go after them with Looker and Nanu and Annabelle. Wait, you don't remember Annabelle? The frontier brain of the battle tower in Emerald? Yeah, her. Yeah, we see Grimsley in a kimono, Colress comes up typing on his arms, and now Annabelle, of all people. Jeez. But I'm not complaining, it's just a serious pull. But hunting down the Ultra Beasts that got dropped off in Alola during the events of the plot, or a little after, was a lot of fun. And, you know... Okay, so maybe I filled my whole team. You get the coolest Pokeballs ever, and I think their designs are some of the neatest that we've seen ever, really. They're just so bizarre, and that's entirely the point. They are hardly Pokemon at all. They're all really strong, too. If you're playing Sun and you're going after Kartana, don't fight it. Just throw the Beast Ball. It'll work. It's got a catch rate of 255, I think. If you don't, it'll sweep your team. Some of them, like Pheromosa and Kartana, and maybe Celesteela, will see some competitive use. Maybe not, honestly. They seem a little too specialized, along with a few of the Pokemon from this generation. But I'm not a really competitive player, so I don't really mind that much. Anyway, I really felt like I was part of something, hunting those guys down. And that brings me to my final point. Yes, this is finally going to be over. My final point on this game, the point to end all points about it, is the world. Yeah. This game, more than any other Pokemon game before it, makes you feel like you're part of something. As fans, we love Pokemon. We love the world it created. The world that was... It followed rules. It made sense. It was fun and colorful and crazy and had Pokemon in it. And so many of us who have been playing for a long time, myself included, want to be a part of it. Like, in some ways, especially after this year, it seems a little more attractive than our world sometimes. Everything from the characters, the dialogue, the Pokedex, all these things make Alola feel like it's really part of this Pokemon world, and everything that's happened before matters, and everything that'll happen from now on will matter. Everything feels like it's really come together into an enriching experience that just feels very involved and very connected. Everything is connected in this game, even the things that aren't in it. Nothing is out of bounds for this game. And while you're playing it, the entire Pokemon world is living and breathing around you. It could use some other things to increase that, maybe a bit more environmental ambience and following Pokemon. Come on, guys! But if you want to experience the world of Pokemon in the best way you can, or if you think that you can enjoy the world of Pokemon even if you've never experienced it before, this is the game. This is the game that feels most like the world that we all know and love and have tried to recreate with our imaginations, or with fan fictions, or with Nuzlocks, or with whatever we've chosen to express our love of Pokemon with, this is the one that pays it off the most. Read your Pokedex, listen to the NPCs, and just feel like you're part of it. There's a lot of good mechanics, there's a couple disappointing ones. Same with the characters. But all in all, even if this isn't the best Pokemon game, and you know what, it's a good contender for it. I'm not gonna say it is or it isn't. It's gonna have to try pretty hard to beat with Black 2 or White 2, though. Whew, those were good. But all in all, the feelings that this game can evoke are absolutely priceless, and I really feel like they hit it out of the park with this one. It is a definite must-play. Huh. Hey, do you think Game Freak put all their work into this one? Because over in Japan, Yokai Watch is kicking their ass. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to my review and my little gush at the end. I love Pokemon almost as much as my family, and I'm so glad to be able to give it a positive review. If you like this video format, please let me know. Maybe I'll keep doing videos like it, with a better setup, so my eyes aren't constantly drifting to the left to check my script, and at a time when kids aren't getting home from school. If you want to see what I've been spending most of my time on, check my Tumblr for art I make. I draw a Pokemon picture every Monday, and if you want to check my new Twitter, that's a thing too. I also have a lot of other types of videos, some that worked, some that didn't. Your feedback may very well influence the future of this channel, so please offer some, and maybe I'll see you next time. Got a couple more games coming out that I might review.